Top Secrets Video. Have your credit card ready. Call now.
This is your local forecast. Information you can plan on, because now we show it on the 8s of every hour. Local on the 8s on the Weather Channel. The Weather Channel. No place on Earth has better weather.
Let's go ahead and give you some information. Again, the latest. There's a look at the radius of both tropical storm and hurricane force winds. Now, that can get pretty important because eventually when the system starts to interact with the land, and if indeed it does make landfall later tonight, then you certainly would like to be on the outside of the orange shaded zone. By the way, those hurricane force winds do extend 85 miles out from the center of circulation. That's the way it stands right now. And of course, these radius of hurricane and tropical storm force winds certainly can change as you go through time. We do have that advisory from 2 p.m., 37.6 north, 70.1 west. Look how long it's been along this 70-degree longitude line. Quite some time when it was east of southern Florida. It came in, hooked onto the 70, and it's been riding that pretty much to the north. Movement north at 15 miles per hour. Each time we get an official update from the Hurricane Center, the maximum sustained winds continue to be dropped, most recently down to 105 miles per hour and 959 millibar pressure, 220 miles south of Nantucket Island. Now, we do have those warnings in effect from Watch Hill out past Buzzards Bay to the Cape, around the Cape, north of Cape Ann, all the way up to Merrimack River. That's where the hurricane warnings are in effect, including Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, Block Island, all those islands underneath a hurricane warning. Here's that 70, that almost magical 70-degree longitude line, and it is forecast to continue this northerly track as we head into the night. If it stays on this track, we could be looking at hurricane force winds affecting southeast New England as we get probably beyond 10 o'clock, closer to midnight tonight, based on current speed and direction. Again, based on current speed and direction, provided there are no major changes. Tropical storm warnings at the same time exist from Merrimack all the way up to Eastport, Maine. Also from Port Jefferson on the north side of the island out in Suffolk County, coming out to Watch Hill, and then from Fire Island Inlet on the south shore, heading out past Montauk Point. We do have tropical storm warnings in effect. And again, as I showed you at the onset, there are those tropical storm force winds in the yellow, hurricane force winds in the orange, and they do extend out to the 85 miles approximately to the northeast of the center of circulation. Heavy surf advisory. This has been primarily the main problem from this particular tropical weather system since it's been affecting the U.S. East Coast. And even as far as south as Savannah, Georgia, heavy surf advisories in effect. Strike probability, in other words, what's the chance in numbers, the probability that the center of the system will pass within 60 nautical miles either side of a fixed point on land. And you can see, again, the 70-degree longitude line, the main transference belt here. So they're right there in southeast New England at this time. That's the greatest, or let's say the highest, probability of the center making landfall within 60 nautical miles. Big outflow canopy of high cirrus clouds, convection represented by some of the reds and yellows that you see here as you get closer to the actual center. And as the system continues to make its way to the north, we keep seeing those high clouds advance northward. Now on the visible imagery, you can see that well-defined center of circulation, the eye, and as the system continues to move north, some of these outer rain bands swirling back towards the northwest. They'll be heading out towards the very eastern tip of Long Island in the next couple of hours. We go to the south, and yeah, we got another one, Hurricane Fran, and thankfully this one also passing far enough north to the islands, except on the tail end of this, we do have showers and thunderstorms setting up east of the Virgin Islands as you head on down to Guadeloupe, showers and thunderstorms. And what's interesting is sometimes in these tropical system tails, if we want to call it that, you can actually get some exceptionally heavy rain, even though the storm may be miles and miles and miles away. There are the coordinates as of 11 this morning, west-northwest bound at 8 miles per hour. And you know, it's that west-northwesterly track combined with favorable upper-level conditions and warm sea surface temperatures which will make this problematic as we head through the next couple of days. Closer inspection shows you the swirling cloud mass, and that's not it, because we still have Gustav, minimal system at this point, 40 miles an hour, and it's moving northwest at 14.
Freedom of choice, the foundation of the American marketplace. When searching for insurance to protect yourself, your family, your property, or your business, an independent insurance agent can offer you a lot more choices. Independent agents are free to help you shop around. They're experienced in navigating the marketplace to find the best coverage for the right price. Look for the big I and call today.
Independent agents representing consumers for over a century. Visit your local independent agent today.
Welcome to General Nutrition Centers. Gold Card members, this Tuesday you save 20% off everything. So jot it down, 20% discount savings at GNC. Want a Gold Card? Join at GNC. Gold Card members, see you Tuesday.
And now it's time for the Michelin Drivers Report, brought to you by Michelin and your participating Michelin dealers.
All right, let's take a look at what's happening with rainy travel this afternoon. We have a widespread area where the roadways will be wet occasionally. And here in the southwest, this will be a problem later on this afternoon when the storms get a little bit more organized. And you can see this area extends from the southeast to the plains. That's due to a cold front. It's already triggered storms in North Dakota. And some actually could be severe later today and tonight as the front moves from North Dakota into Minnesota. And two separate areas where strong thunderstorms are also possible. National radar picking out the front, outer bands of Hurricane Edouard, and we'll have more in a moment for you on the hurricane. And in the southeast, more showers and thunderstorms in the forecast. By tomorrow afternoon, our hurricane continues to chug north, maybe north-northeast, and our cold front moving into northwest Minnesota. More of the forecast and the tropics coming up.
At Michelin, we believe a tire that's just good in the rain isn't good enough. Introducing the Michelin X1 with a 6-year, unlimited mileage tread life warranty. It gives you better wet traction than any rain tire and Michelin confidence in any driving condition. It has to, because the way we see it, you don't just cover a lot of miles, you cover a lot of weather. The Michelin X1.
Find Michelin tires at this dealer near you, because so much is riding on your tires.
Coming up on a special edition of WeatherScope, the latest on Hurricane Edouard, right after your local forecast.
This is a special edition of WeatherScope. Comprehensive severe weather coverage from the Weather Channel Forecast Center.
Hurricane Edouard has already been blamed for 2 deaths and a third person a broken neck due to surfing. Hi, I'm Janetta Jones coming to you live from the Forecast Center here at the Weather Channel. We are continuing our coverage on Hurricane Edouard as it continues to churn towards southern New England. It looks like if it continues on its present track, it could make landfall somewhere in southern New England late tonight, early tomorrow morning. We're talking about probably after midnight. Let's get the latest statistics on Hurricane Edouard for you right now. And this is as of the 2 p.m. advisory. There you have the coordinates. It is centered about 220 miles south of Nantucket Island. The winds are at 105 miles per hour. It's moving towards the north at 15 miles per hour. So over the past 24 hours or so, Edouard has weakened just a bit, but it continues its northerly track at about 15 miles per hour. And like I said, if it continues on that track, it could make landfall somewhere in southern New England, probably after midnight. Now, we do have hurricane warnings in effect from Watch Hill, Rhode Island to the Merrimack River. That includes Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, and Block Island. Now, I want to let you know that we also have tropical storm warnings in effect, and that includes Fire Island Inlet on Long Island and all the way to Watch Hill. Now, Long Island Sound east of Port Jefferson Harbor is also in the tropical storm warning area. Now, the reason we tell you this is because with this hurricane, even if it makes landfall somewhere around Nantucket, yes, that area is going to experience the hurricane force winds because they extend out some 85 miles from the center, but also want to let you know that the tropical storm force winds extend out some 250, 260 miles from the center. So if it makes landfall somewhere around Nantucket, you're still going to feel the effects, let's say, on towards Long Island Sound, as well as Fire Island Inlet to Watch Hill as far as that is concerned. So want to let you know where those winds are a problem. Now, this is the strike probability. Obviously, where we have the darkest red shading, that's where you have the highest probability of a landfalling hurricane. And like I said, it is still a hurricane at 110 miles per hour, even I should say 105 miles per hour, even though it has shown a little bit of weakening over the past 24-hour period. The storm surge, yeah, that's something we're also watching. The tides are expected to run 3 to 6 feet above normal, locally 6 to 8 feet for the bays and inlets and the outer Cape Cod. High breaking surf up to 15 feet, so that is going to cause significant coastal flooding. Obviously, we are looking at a lot of problems here, including the heavy rainfall. This is our expert for the day until John Hope gets here, Patrick Walsh. Thanks for joining us. You're a senior forecaster here at the Weather Channel. Yes. Tell me your thoughts about Hurricane Edouard.
Well, a couple interesting things going on with Hurricane Edouard. We've been watching the latest data coming in from the Hurricane Hunters aircraft, and we've seen a slight trend for the system to go north to almost north-northeast, so we'll have to watch that very carefully over the next few hours. It would certainly put less and less of the hurricane force conditions possibly to move on to Cape Cod and Nantucket areas. Also, the system, as you noted earlier, was weakening, and that is a trend we expect to continue as it moves over some colder water.
Now, why don't you explain to everyone why we think it's going to continue to weaken?
Well, once it gets past about 37 degrees north, it is now just north of that location, we see that the water temperatures really drop off. It gets north of the Gulf Stream, so water temperatures get down in the 70s and perhaps even 60s as you get closer to Long Island and that area, and the hurricanes need at least 80 degrees to really keep their strength. So we will see a significant weakening over the next 36 hours.
But not as much weakening as we would want, probably.
Well, yeah, and plus too, the system is moving a lot slower than what we typically see for a northeastern landfalling hurricane, if it does make landfall, and so it will have more time to really lose some strength, but it still could be a Category 1 on the Saffir-Simpson scale if it makes landfall tonight or tomorrow.
Okay, let's take a look at the satellite vantage point and tell us what you see here.
Well, you could see pretty much that the center of the circulation has been paralleling the 70-degree longitude line, and that trend has continued, though we have seen a little bit of jog earlier to the west, now to the east, could perhaps just be some wobbles, and we anticipate this track to continue over the next 36 hours before eventually turning off to the east-northeast and speeding out to the open Atlantic. You can see on the visible satellite picture here that we do have a well-defined center of circulation there, the eye, and even though the system is weakening, it's still a well-defined hurricane, still a Category 2 right now on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Certainly enough to kick up some waves and bring in some squally weather in the next few hours over the northeast and New England.
Okay, obviously as we look at the radar, you can already see some of those squalls starting to get very, very close.
Yes, as those come inland later today, you can expect some wind-driven rain, some tropical storm force gusts to wind, and conditions will continue to deteriorate as we go through the overnight hours.
Okay, Patrick, thank you very much. We'll keep a very close watch on Edouard. Now we'll look at the rest of the country and we go back to the studio.
Mother is glad, for no sugar do they add, and it's made with 100% juice. Juicy Juice, 100% juice for 100% kids.
Coming up on a special edition of WeatherScope, the latest on Hurricane Edouard, right after your local forecast.
Special edition of WeatherScope. Comprehensive severe weather coverage from the Weather Channel Forecast Center.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brad Edwards here in the Forecast Center of the Weather Channel with John Hope, our hurricane specialist, and we're covering, of course, special coverage continues with Hurricane Edouard, which is posing a threat to the eastern coastline, especially southern New England. But with time, John, we have some good news, I guess.
I think we have quite a lot of good news, actually. The winds are down to 100 miles an hour. We expect the winds to diminish more than that now that the center of the storm is over colder water. And we have seen a little bit of a jog on the track now to the east of due north, and that encourages us to believe that the center of the hurricane is likely to pass to the southeast of Cape Cod and Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard.
That's right. Some small indications that things are improving. We can't certainly let our guard down. Here's the latest, though. 38.1 north, 69.9 west as of 5 o'clock. The next advisory comes in at 8 o'clock, so very soon. The winds at that time 100 miles per hour and about 200 miles away from Nantucket Island, moving generally in that direction, north at 14 with a slight movement to the east, and the pressure 961 millibars, and that has also been rising, a sign, I guess, John, that it's kind of filling in a little bit or losing some of its pressure gradient.
Right. It hasn't been rising very rapidly, though. Each time an aircraft is out there, they go out there about 2 hours apart, say, and it only comes up 1 millibar, possibly 2, so it's not an abrupt rise, but it's going to be continuous. It's going to keep on going. The pressure is going to keep on coming up, and the winds are going to decrease.
Yeah, and you can see a lot of the clouds have gone inland. Only a little bit of rain has made it inland, and some of the rain and wind has made it into Montauk, Long Island. And that's where Dennis Smith is at. Dennis, conditions there, are they deteriorating?
Yes, they are. In fact, the rain's coming down steady but light across the area. The winds continue to pick up just a little bit since we spoke to you last, running probably about 15, maybe occasional gusts up over 30 miles an hour. nothing really threatening tropical storm strength at this juncture, but the waves continue to pound on in. We've already seen our low tide earlier this afternoon. We're inching our way towards high tide, which will be occurring right before midnight. And as we do, we can see some of the waves have been kicking on in anywhere from 3 to 5 feet, occasional waves topping out probably 6 or 7 feet by my guesstimation. And we're also seeing the spray coming off some of those waves. So that process will continue as we move into the evening hours. A beach that we had probably a couple of hundred feet maybe an hour ago is probably down to less than 100 feet from where it was at high tide earlier in the day. So we're expecting that to be exceeded and move water farther inland than what it did earlier this morning, with the compound effect of astronomical high tide coming in with almost a full moon, and the strength of Edouard to our south and southeast will continue to bring that surf on in. As far as the people and their response to Edouard, some of them gave up on a 3-day weekend, made it into a 2-day weekend and went on home, and we saw the long lines heading out of our point in eastern Long Island earlier today when we came in. But I think everything's pretty well settled down for the night. Folks are just kind of taking it easy and enjoying their time. A little bit of rain they're dealing with. For the most part, they are glad to hear, Brad and John, that this hurricane may continue to drift a little bit farther to the east than even maybe a couple of hours ago.
Well, that trend seems pretty well established, Dennis. Have you noticed any change in your wind direction there?
The winds...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
Well, you should begin to see the wind come around a little more out of the northeast before too long, we should think.
Ever so slightly. If anything, it's probably picked up just a little bit, running about maybe up over 30 miles an hour now. But again, that's probably compounded by the fact that some of the rain's blowing around as well.
All right, well, thanks a lot, Dennis. We'll get back to you later tonight as conditions may worsen. And, of course, we are watching it up and down the east coastline. Let's go back to the satellite and notice the circulation again is kind of expanded. You know, last night, John, I was noticing there weren't that many clouds to the west of the system. It seemed like there was a lot more shear or wind blowing. But tonight, what's going on?
Well, we had some westerly winds impinging on the western side of it yesterday that we don't see today. We don't really have any wind shear or anything going on there at all. The only reason this hurricane is weakening is that it's over colder water.
Okay, because if you go further north, we have much colder waters. We're talking about, what, 60 degrees?
Well, it might get in the upper 60s by the time you get all the way up to the coast, but right now it's over water in the upper 70s, I should think.
Okay, well, here are the hurricane watches and warnings that are posted. The hurricane warning is from Merrimack River, Massachusetts, down to Watch Hill, Rhode Island, and then on either side of that we have a hurricane watch. Those same areas under a hurricane watch, you do have tropical storm warnings, so you could feel tropical storm force winds 40 to 70 miles per hour, certainly with the gusts, with the squalls moving through, would be possible as it moves to the north. And we also have a storm surge here, John. Do you think we're going to see a real problem here with storm surge?
Well, that has always depended on where the center of the hurricane goes. If it would come right over Cape Cod, then the surge would be a lot higher. If it's going off to the northeast and actually goes southeast of Cape Cod, which we believe it is, the surge will not be so high.
Okay, then there's the wind field. Most of the wind is on the western side of the system, and we actually
eastern side.
Eastern side, right, John? And the strike probability now more east of Nantucket.
Right, and that's something, Brad, that folks want to watch, because each time the Hurricane Center puts out a new track, then we get new probabilities. And this last time, the maximum probability shifted eastward, and we would not be surprised at 11 o'clock to see it shift a bit more to the east.
And, John, we're starting to see some heavy rain now moving in. Of course, Dennis Smith was out here on Long Island, and we have Mike Seidel on Chatham, Massachusetts. Mike, heavy rain is moving in on the radar. Is it moving in for real at your area?
Yes, it is, Brad. As you can see around me, the wind is whipping the rain. It's kind of misleading here because we're on the back of this building, which faces, the hotel faces east, which is out that way. And the winds are picking up, gusting at times to 30 miles an hour. So we're starting to get the fringe effects, at least of one of these squall bands here at Chatham, Massachusetts tonight.
And we would point out that you're going to be in this rain area all night long. And we want to point out that even though the center of the hurricane could go southeast of Cape Cod, there will be an area there across the southeastern part of New England where there will be substantial rainfall.
And I think because of the slower movement of the storm, if you remember back in '91, John, Bob just blew through here. Obviously a lot more wind damage, but not as much rain. This one's moving slower, so I would expect, as well as you, that we're going to see more rain with this particular storm versus Hurricane Bob in '91. Wanted to point out, by the way, if you've got any flight plans on Labor Day, Boston's Logan Airport, the last flight is out at 8:30 tonight. They're going to shut the airport down until sometime tomorrow afternoon, and most of the airlines have pulled their fleet out of Logan just to protect it. So if you've got any flights for late tonight or Labor Day, check ahead because they probably will not reopen until sometime Monday afternoon.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mike, for that report. We'll be back to you later on this evening. John, what kind of effects are the big cities going to feel? New York, Hartford, Boston, much at all?
Well, I think the hurricane is going to be far enough east of New York so that they're not going to get very adverse effects at all in New York City. They seem to be west of the rain shield, pretty well west of everything. Now, Boston, certainly we think we'll get some rain, but again, if it goes to the southeast, I don't think the winds will be all that bad in Boston. They may get, I doubt if they get up to hurricane force, for example.
Okay. So that's good news there. One last system we have to check on. Yes, there's even another one out there. This is Hurricane Fran. Winds up to 80 miles per hour, John, and headed in kind of a precarious direction there.
Yes, it is, and it's moving, has been moving up toward the northwest, and it's going to continue to do that, and I'm afraid in 3 or 4 days from now, it's not going to be that far off the coast of the USA, and it is increasing in strength. It's 80 miles an hour already, and we believe it will get stronger as time goes by.
Okay, we'll watch that carefully. Well, now we go back to the studio. We have a lot more going on. Of course, the rest of the forecast and all the weather across the United States with Christina.
Okay, thanks a lot, Brad. Of course, a big holiday tomorrow. We're in the middle of a holiday weekend. All eyes on the forecast. Let's take a quick look at that. Before we do that, though, we want to remind you that all of our tropical storm and hurricane forecast positions are provided by the National Hurricane Center in Miami. Monday morning, Labor Day morning, we have several areas we're watching.